What's up, guys? This is Jay from Revolution Radio, and this is going to be a little bit different show because we don't have Scott. Scott is having oral surgery. Um, Something got stuck in his throat. It was a really serious situation. Um, Happened at a truck stop. It's a weird thing. Uh, Tanya is gone, so it's just me. We were actually going to take this week off. Didn't have much to do. We have an interview with comedian Eric Knowles that will be done later. It's coming up on the site probably tonight. We did do some Twitch streams and stuff like that, but for the most part, we were going to come back and reconvene this weekend, talk about what happened in the Georgia runoffs and whatever else. But the day of the Georgia runoffs, uh, the Trump protest turned into rioting and what many are considering criminal activity, terrorist. It ranges in many different ways, and in any different way you look at it. If you were one of the people who was just at the protest on the outside of the Capitol, it was no big deal. If you were one of the people who killed a DC police officer, then yeah, you're a terrorist, you're a criminal. This was a very sobering moment for a lot of people. I think even in the Trump camp specifically, there were a number of Americans who believe in law and order, who believe in democracy, and understand that even if they have questions about the legitimacy of the election or how it was handled or the media coverage of it or whatever, they understand that there was ways to handle it, and this just simply wasn't one of them. Um, so it was a real mixed bag for a lot of people. And obviously, for the media and for people on the left, Trump played into who they said he was all along. There was a number of people like myself who would say that Trump wouldn't do this kind of thing. He would not let, he wouldn't antagonize his people and wouldn't, let's say, generalize this sort of an attack on our nation's capital. But it's what he ended up doing, and really we don't know why. Politically, it was dumb. There was nothing to gain from it. When these Trump supporters burst into the Capitol, it was obvious that they had no clue what they were doing. They were milling around, taking pictures of stuff. A lot of people didn't realize that this group, they were, I want to say, 30, 40 feet away from an area that actually stored some of our most sacred nation's secrets. But instead, they went into Nancy Pelosi's office. They went in searching for um, Mike Pence and taking pictures of things on the Senate floor and on the House floor. There was no organization. They didn't know this was going to happen. I think they were just as surprised by getting in as everyone else was that they got in. There's a lot to break down from the DC police. Videos everywhere of them taking selfies with some of these people, letting them in through the barriers, just literally opening up the gates and letting them through. There's a lot of internal investigations, and of course, there's a lot of people who are pointing out the fact that these police officers who they had the Capitol, they had the monuments, they had them locked down this summer. There's a classic image of a protest, a Black Lives Matter protest happening, and a 79-year-old white man got his skull caved in by one of these cops. And when the Trump supporters came in and rioted and destroyed things and committed acts of potential terrorism, these cops didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. And there's side by side footage of the cops helping the Trump supporters when they would get knocked down or get hurt. There's classic video of a woman, a heavy-set woman, being helped down the stairs by the police. And we all know that if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, she would have gotten knocked down the stairs and beat. You can't deny that. And I think that's where some of this actually leads into so much more division and honestly was politically dumb. Because a lot of Republicans who support Trump don't look at him the same after this. They they live by that American flag. When you attack our nation's capital, it's hard to just shrug that off. But then on the other side, you have the hatred for the cops amped up even more by groups like Black Lives Matter, who say this was completely unfair. And in fact, we had a report today that showed that there were a lot of off-duty cops that were a part of this group. Potential inside job? We'll find out more on that. Although I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if it's fair because again, they were aimless. When they broke through, they were grabbing stuff. There was some actually comical aspects of it. There's the podium guy. I think a lot of people know I'm talking about. The shaman, people like that who were actually kind of funny. But a lot of just aimlessness. We don't know what we're looking for. We don't know what we're doing in here. But this has just led to much more divisive political situation that we have in this country that where potentially things like this may not be as obscure as they once were when we think about this kind of situation where people are storming our capital and it's not a foreign enemy. We see that kind of scene in a third world country. We don't see that in America, but who knows? Um, if we normalize this behavior, it'll happen again and potentially be worse. The interesting thing and the big takeaway that I have, though, aside from a ex-military 14-year QAnon supporter being shot by the FBI, giving her life for this cause and this cause of aimlessness, it makes me wonder and it makes me ask, why? Why Trump? Trump wasn't doing anything to help the people. He really didn't. I would love the comments to tell me what he did. Not what he said, what he actually did, what he put into law. And don't give me the whole, well, he was busy uh with impeachment, things like that. No, he had 2 years, okay? The House was Republican or split. He had 2 years. Pretty much the same situation Obama walked into. And he did nothing. He didn't even build a wall. Biggest thing he did was tax cuts for the rich. That's it. And somehow he garners this kind of devotion to have people attack their own capital for him. People get shot. People die. People kill cops for a 74-year-old elitist Democrat from New York City. That makes no sense to me. If Donald Trump was some sort of freedom fighter, if he was passing legislation that was changing people's lives, then I get it. There might be the objection, well, they stole the election. No, they didn't. Guys, it wasn't close. It really wasn't. Um, the popular vote was like by 8 million. The Electoral College breakdown was about the same between Trump and Hillary Clinton. It, it wasn't close at all. But you know what was close? 2000. Gore versus Bush came down to one state in Florida. That state of Florida had a recount after Gore conceded, and lo and behold, Gore actually won Florida. That is when they stole an election from somebody. Maybe that would have warranted the Democrats and the left wing storming the Capitol. I don't think it would be received as well. But it's one of the most clear times in American history, potentially the only one, where there was an election that was actually potentially stolen. We did what we did. We moved on, come together as a people. I don't see this happening. Not in this situation, because we have a lot of people who were sycophantic over an idea of a person by the name of Donald Trump. They can't even point to anything that he has actually done to deserve this kind of praise and this sort of devotion. There is nothing. They see him as something that he doesn't even resemble. They see him as a big, strong, powerful guy. He's like 2 coronaries away from the casket. He is an obese, old, elitist, white male who's always been rich because daddy gave him everything. He has never worked. He's never been a blue collar worker a day in his life. But they see him as something else. They see the result of an election as something else. Numbers don't mean anything. Facts don't mean anything. I don't know. We're in a very scary situation by far. Um, there's talks about him being impeached or the 25th Amendment being enacted. And I do know that Mike Pence is incredibly frustrated with him, and Mike Pence might do it. I don't think he will, but there are talks that he could. And as far as impeachment is concerned, I don't think they should. I really don't. I don't think they should be blocking him on Twitter and Facebook like they are. I think it's better to know what he's thinking and what he's telling people to do. And when you cut him off like that, we don't know what he's thinking. We don't know what he's going to say. We don't know if he wants to come back and apologize. He did upload a video where he did say that he conceded and when it's time to come together and whatever. But then today he releases more information gloating about the people who stormed the Capitol on his behalf. He's always talking out of 2 sides of his mouth. And that's what we got here. That's what happened. One of the most shameful days in American history starts a few days into 2021. Great way to kick off the new year. Uh, I will say this, that the thing that I'm most fearful between now and January 20th regarding the Trump administration is actually an attack on Iran. This has been reported by a few really smart journalists that the anniversary of Soleimani's death is quickly approaching, and one good way for Donald Trump to say "F you" to Joe Biden is to get him involved in military actions with Iran. And we've already had reports of the military mobilizing in that area, and that is a complete possibility that I don't think many people are taking into perspective right now. You know, they still have the idea of this terrorist president, but he could go back to good old-fashioned American terrorism. Anyway, thank you guys.